Where should we begin? We'll begin with Happy Father's Day. Grace to you and peace from our Lord and Savior, Jesus the risen Christ. Amen. What do people think of this text, this gospel text? What do you think? You know, what's the first thing? You've heard it before. Most of you have heard it before, right? What strikes you in this? Just blurt it out. What strikes you about these texts? And I'll repeat to Zoom land. They're waiting for me to walk across a tightrope. That's what they're doing. You guys are a wise group. Real wise. We're not perfect. We're not perfect. You want to come up here and elaborate on that for about 20 minutes? 15? 10? 10 minutes. Oh, boy. We're not perfect. We're not perfect. Neither is any father that ever was made a father, or mother for that case. But I was thinking about fathers, and if you're burning to tell me what you think about that text, now is your chance. But at any time you can interrupt me, and you can tell me. It's a hard text. It's a hard text. But so is Father's Day. It's a hard text, you know? And sometimes Mother's Day. We're not perfect. So I was thinking about the animal kingdom, of which we are a part. You know, we're the most dangerous animal in the animal kingdom, by far. The most dangerous animal is a human that's afraid. Yep. That's the most dangerous. So I was thinking about the animal kingdom and all the creatures, and how many creatures actually mate for life? And when the young are born, in particular, the male sticks around. Just trying to think about that. There's quite a few that I came across, but nothing in comparison to the lion's share of all of the animals. One of my favorite ones is penguins. Penguins, they'll fertilize an egg, you know, they'll have a romantic night. And then they have this egg that's hatched, fertilized, and of course right away the man stands with the egg on his feet. You know that? The egg, you know, the mother brings this egg over and kind of pushes it over on his feet, and then he stands there with all of the other male penguins, and they stand in a circle, and they'll stand there for up to 3 months, just like that. They'll start to become emaciated. They won't eat, and they just protect that egg, and they don't let those eggs fall to the ground. If they do, they can't get them up. Isn't that wild? If it falls to the ground, they're just like, oh, how do I get that? You know. So if an egg rolls off of Dad's feet, it's doomed. So Dad just watches that egg, and then the women, they all take off. They take off into the sea and they eat as much as they can, and they get really, really big, and then they make their way back to that pack. They don't know how they know which is their spouse, you know, or I don't think there's a mistress involved, but maybe there's a mistress or something. Maybe he's got 2 packs that he's going to, she comes and she finds her spouse, right? And it's bitter cold. You know, they transfer in and out of the center of that circle. So the ones on the outside would freeze to death if they just stayed there. After all, they're losing all their weight. So they take turns going to the center where they can warm up, always being careful with that egg. And then when Mom comes back, the child is ready to be born, hatched. She goes right to the one she hatched, and the guy that is responsible for the whole day, you know. And they pass the egg, and then there's the baby is hatched. It's amazing. That is not the way most of the animal kingdom is when it comes to the male. The male basically takes off, and most of the time never to be seen again, ever. So that's most of the animal kingdom. Does anybody have that experience in the animal kingdom where you come from? Certainly was mine. And when I was growing up, my brother Albert there may or may not be online. That's all I'm going to say, Albert. I'm not going to talk about you, but we went to the parochial school, right before it closed because the neighborhood changed so badly, and so we always get there as Missouri Synod Lutheran school, and learned a lot. I learned most of the Bible stories of my childhood from that. But there'd be the father-son banquet in the spring, every spring. And if you didn't have a dad in your life or somebody that would stand in for that, it was kind of a mysterious thing. Wonder what they did in there. Were there secret handshakes or something? And then I started asking around by the time I was in 5th and 6th grade, what was the father banquet like, father-son banquet? And student after student after student that I asked said, I don't know, I've never been to it. It's like, oh, you guys don't go? No, my dad's not around. Oh, my dad's not around. My dad's around, but he won't go. And that's good, because he'll take his flask with him. So from what I understand, the father-son banquet had to be so small that it was probably just a couple tables in the basement. We all thought it was just us that didn't have these dads around. We were a member of the animal kingdom. Dads don't stick around. It's a complicated story. And you think, well, it's because men just don't have it inherently in them to stick around. Well, let's just talk about humanity at this point. We are animals, and there's some reason for it. It's a rare case where the woman is not sticking around. They might want to leave for all kinds of reasons. I know one, it is complicated. It's really complicated. I know one guy who was a pastor that was kicked out of being in the church because his wife divorced him, left him with their 2 children, 5 and 7. So he's a pastor, he's got a 5 and 7-year-old at home. She goes away never to return. He can't be a pastor anymore because they're divorced. She got a divorce. But eventually, he was reinstated because it was really close to that, I think it was 1965, that they changed their mind, and he went on to be just a great dad. Hard? Did he do everything right? No. But he stuck around, So there are exceptions to the rule. Sometimes they do stay, sometimes they... So it's a complicated thing. So imagine being Abraham. Sarah comes to Abraham and says, I can't have children. I'm in my 80s now, and I know God says that we're going to have a child, but I can't get pregnant. So why don't you take Hagar, the slave woman that works for me, and be with her? I mean, that was allowable in those days, and we do it here. Surrogate mama, and open adoptions, all kinds of things that are life-giving, wonderful things. So life-giving, Hagar says yes. They have this child, Ishmael, and it's a wonderful day. I can imagine Sarah being overjoyed when the child is born. And then all of a sudden, she's pregnant. And the way she saw that child before as being this great gift to continue the line of Abraham, her husband, becomes, he laid with that louse of a woman. I'd like to say, anybody have that experience where they come from in the animal kingdom? Oh boy, if I had a nickel for every person that told me, I just discovered my dad's not my real dad, I could pay for a whole gallon of gas. And that's a lot in California. It's more the norm than not. And once we get over the stigma of it all, life is life. And boy, am I glad. You might have met him one night, Mom, in a bar, but I am so grateful. I don't recommend it as a lifestyle, but life is life, and I'm so thankful for it. Abraham is approached by Sarah and told, get rid of this slave woman. She's driving me crazy. Look at now her little toddler's playing with my new baby. I don't want them growing up together. I don't want them even know each other. Get them out of my sight. That ever happened to you? happened to me in my animal kingdom all the time. People are complicated. People come to regret what they've said, what they've done, and they feel like there's no way they can go back and fix it. Life is complicated. What do you do? So Abraham has to listen as God says, don't worry, Abraham. Hagar is going to be fine, and the boy will be more than fine. He will be a great nation, just like Isaac. So let it be. He does. I don't know if you ever snuck off to meet them and see them, as he went off on a business trip or something. Hard to find the receipts as evidence in the briefcase that falls out on the kitchen floor. But it's like, what's this? Well, who's Jeff? Life is life. And violence is violence. And disrespect is disrespect. And anything that goes against what it would mean to love somebody is not of God. God's not going to say to Abraham, until the next chapter, next week, take Isaac and go and sacrifice him. Which, that's an interesting text too. Sometimes that falls on Father's Day. And we just get more and more sober the more and more we look at our lives, because we've all lived it, right? And are living it. So what to make of this? And then we get to the gospel text. First off, let's just say it ended up okay for Ishmael and for Hagar. And then history takes over. And the two, although they shared DNA almost down to every strand, continue to bomb each other back into oblivion because they despise one another. The sins of the father are visited down to the sons. They should both remember Abraham and what Abraham did for the sake of Ishmael in the land that they both live. So the gospel comes along, and here's Jesus. Oh my gosh. Who could ever agree to this text? It's like father will be against son. It wouldn't even go down better if it wasn't Father's Day. It'd be just as bad, and mother against daughter, and daughter-in-law against mother-in-law, and it just goes on. And you think, God, why would that be in there? And it's not so much this is what's going to happen because of me, Jesus, and what Jesus was about, which is loving everybody, always, everywhere, even the ones that will nail him to a cross, down to the last. That's not what Jesus would. It's more like Jesus is describing what the reality of humanity is. Don't you think? If I looked out at just a pile of people, if I got to know them, it would be like describing who we all are, who we've become, what we've come from, what we've endured, what we've gone through, what we've reconciled, what we've become able to redeem in some ways. I think about the men's group that we have in the basement now. We had 117 people there on Friday morning at 9 a.m. There's not, there's not any one thing that we do other than just listen to each other and do our best to learn from each other. But the one constant that I see through all of what we do there is nobody's perfect. And everybody comes from brokenness. Everybody comes from brokenness, and everybody's hurting in one way or another. And in that shared burden of carrying it, you come to realize you're not the first. You won't be the last. So I remember a couple months ago asking something about dads, and it went around and around. My dad was a good guy, but he just never talked to us. or he never touched us. Or, you know, if my dad was reading the paper and he had his beer in his hand, you don't mess with him. You know, that kind of a thing. But, or, you know, never met him, don't know who he was or where he came from. And I think about that. I used to be afraid of becoming a dad. And because I didn't have role models within the family system that you'd want to emulate. And I've got lots of pastors that have gone through internship, and a good chunk of those internships were horrible experiences. And I've always said, you know, and it's true, a bad experience in internship is just as valuable as a good one. You know what doesn't work and what is cruel and what is not fitting for people and for each other and for being a pastor. So that works good. And then I got to think of this morning, I suppose a childhood without a dad around, or a negative experience of a dad, like very viciously negative, that's just as valuable as one that was really good. I'd never thought about that before. Think about that. It's like, you know. My grandpa was a horrible, cruel man. But I knew underneath the surface of that guy there was a gem. And there was a lot of hurt and pain. And I could touch that in a way that I don't know how I did, but I did. And so I could dismiss all the other horrible things that he did to me and others, because I knew there was something underneath. It's like Hitler. Was Hitler always Hitler? Hitler's a product of where he comes from, you know. His mother was raped by her uncle, and she miscarried. So he raped her again and again and again until she gave birth to Hitler, you know, in her teens. And his mother really was phobic of blood and anything to do with family. And what do you know? It doesn't fall far from the tree, does it? Talk about blood and what's pure and what's not. And Trump. If you've ever heard stories of what his father was like, oh man. It's amazing he's as nice as he is and as put together as he is. It's actually miraculous, if you could call it that. You still don't need to put him in the driver's seat, right? So we're wounded. We're wounded, and that's what comes out in the text today. And I'm going to be done here really quick, but you know, all of that father against son and mother against daughter, and it's just a fact. It's just a fact. You know, it plays out in my life today. It plays out in your lives. Make it political. You know, don't talk about politics at the table. You know, we're gonna have to cancel Thanksgiving. You know, can we remember the love we have for each other when this is all done? Can we remember what the big picture is? It's really hard to, and I mean that. It's really hard to look at the top side of this and say, this will be done soon. Not soon enough, but it'll be done, and we'll come back around, and we'll pick up the pieces, all the dust-ups and all the family accusations and the pointing of the fingers and 250 years as a nation, and this is how we get to celebrate. Fights on the White House lawn. Like, we're going to get through this. We're going to get to the other side. Can we keep our humanity? Can we keep our faith intact? Which is what I think Jesus is really ultimately saying here, which is over and over again in this text. You can go back and read it. Take it home with you. Fear not. When people start to do this stuff, when they start to divide you one from another because of what I've said or because of what they've said, I mean, what can you know is true anymore, right? It's like, what's real? What's true? How do we, alternative facts, right? No matter how you cut it, maybe test it against the measuring stick of, is there compassion and love in it? Above and beyond all things. And if there is, all right, maybe cling to it. But if there isn't, if there's division and destruction, stand firm. Speak against it in the light of day. You might be taken away too. But trust me, it's all going to come out in the wash. Stick to it. Stick to it. Know that you're in pain just like everybody else. So Jesus keeps saying, I think it's 3 or 4 times here, fear not. When they start to do these things, fear not, fear not. Because the most dangerous animal in the world is a human that's fearful. Whether you're a mom or a dad. So, I was afraid to be a dad. But I have plenty of role models. I have them all over the place. You know, I had Frank Duran, who was a recovering drug addict, a drug dealer, and a gang member, and had teardrops for every person he killed. He was a member of our church and had 3 little kids and a wife that was ferocious, that would not let him go. If he left, he would never stop regretting it. She would find him, and she loved him ferociously. He was a great dad. His dad was horrible. He was a great dad. I had him. I had all kinds of good role models in every direction. I've got them all over the room here. And I've got my grandpa as a role model of somebody that could actually stop the war long enough to sit next to me and watch MASH and not swear at me once while we did it. Even though I know he wanted to, because it's what he does. So hold your tongue, dads. Hold your tongue. If that's all you can do, hold your tongue. Grandpa Martin, he held his tongue long enough for me to sit in his wheelchair, wipe his butt, and watch MASH. And he said thank you to my mother with his last dying breath. The only time he ever said thank you in his life. I've got that as a role model. Now just remember it. Keep it and do it more often than that. Just keep doing it. Because this is the snapshot picture of our world. We're falling apart. And we're not the first. We're not the first. So find all the things that you can root out and that are written on your heart about how to be with each other, how to love one another, and then do it for your kids, do it for your neighbors, do it for everybody. And just hold fast to it. That's a good Happy Father's Day, isn't it? Besides, my last footnote would be, Mother's Day started as an anti-war cry for all the women of the world to come together and promise they wouldn't send their children to war anymore. And they got taken over by Hallmark, turned into cards so that we could say, thank you, Mama. The mamas that started Mother's Day were ferocious in their ability to stand against war and destruction, and all the men that come reeking of their alcohol at the end of the night. That was the first Mother's Day. And once Hallmark got a hold of it, thanks, Mama, for all you do. That's not the mamas that we're talking about. But Hallmark turned it in that and then said, well, what about the dads too? We can make some money off the dads. So happy Father's Day, Papa. I know that that's how it started. I used to rail against Mother and Father's Day, but I don't know. After this text falls on it, I think it's a good thing. Happy Father's Day. No matter how bad you've been or how bad it's been to you, you've got lots of role models about how to love. So that's your job, even when the family won't talk at Thanksgiving. Whew. We got our work cut out for us, but fear not. That's the last word. Fear not. Amen.